안녕하세요. Let's talk about passive verbs. What are passive verbs? Let's see. You see images here. Then there can be many ways to describe these images. I'm gonna use this picture, this image. You can to describe this image. You can use a puppy. Then puppy bit or bites my finger or bites me on my finger. And so puppy does this action actively to bite, right? But if I use myself or my finger, then I or my finger gets the action, undergoes the action passively, right? So in this case, we use literally be bit. passive verb라고 합니다. passive verb. So let's talk about passive verbs a little bit more. So puppy does this action. So we say this one is active verb. When you use puppy as a subject, the puppy bites me. But if we use I, who get the action or who undergoes the action because of the agent, then when I use I, then I get a bite. I got a bite, or I am bit. In this case, be bit is 물리다, passive verbs. Okay, that's all. There are many passive verbs, but it's easy to recognize the passive verb because, as you see, many passive, not all passive verbs, many passive verbs has some one more syllable to each active verb. So if I show you, group of passive verbs has a syllable e to the active verb is 보이다, to be seen. 쓰다, 쓰이다, 바뀌다, 놓이다, 베이다. To be cut, to be placed, to be changed, to be written, to be used. Another group is he syllable. So 잡히다, to be cut. 닫히다, to be closed. 막히다, to be blocked. 찍히다, to be taken a photo by paparazzi. 먹히다. A steak is eaten by Jessica. 먹히다 있습니다. Another group of passive verb is they have 일 syllable. 자, 물리다, to be bit. to be bit인지 to be bit인지 보자. 자, 풀다, to solve, 풀리다, to be solved, to be relieved. 듣다, 들리다, 이거는 스펠링 체인지. 들리다, to be heard, to be listened. So the usage of English, the usage of this word in English and Korean is a bit different, right? They are a bit different. 자, 열리다, to be opened. 팔리다, literally to be sold. 밀리다, literally to be pushed. 가자. 이번에는 this time the passive verbs that have key syllable in the active verbs. 안기다, to be hugged. 뺏기다, to be taken away. 씻기다, to be washed. 쫓기다, to be chased. 끊기다, to be put, to be stopped. 잠그다, 스펠링 체인지, 잠기다. 그래서 to be locked. Okay, the another group. Did I say it all? Oh, I already said all. Okay, 갑니다. So there are many active verbs and passive verbs, and if you see the syllable 이, 히, 리, 기, or gi in a word, in a predicate, in a verb, you can guess mostly they are passive verbs입니다. However, not only these verbs are passive verbs, there are other types of passive verbs too. The verbs that has a passive stance. For example, 저는 주사위를 던졌어요. I threw a die. 주사위는 던져졌어요. The die is cast, or the die was cast. So here, the die undergoes this action이죠. Because of me. 자, 그래서 던져지다 passive verb예요. Not the 던져지다 doesn't belong to the groups that I showed you before, right? Also, some verbs that has a passive stance. There are many verbs that have a passive stance. So like 던져지다. So just memorize. 갑니다. 저는 공을 떨어뜨렸어요. I dropped a ball. 자, active verb예요. 그런데 공이 떨어졌어요. The ball or a ball dropped, fell. It sounds like passive verb or kind of a bit different, right? So I'm gonna show you some examples. 바람에 공이 책상에서 떨어졌어요. 자, a ball dropped from a desk because of wind, or a ball was fallen from a desk by the wind. So you can translate 떨어지다 either passive stance or just as it is a passive verb or a verb that passive stance. This example, 손이 미끄러워서 제 손에서 공이 떨어졌어요. Because my hands are slippery, so the ball fell from my hands. 됐죠? In this case, not just 떨어지다 is a verb예요. 떨어지다 in intransitive verb예요. Not passive verb. So different입니다. Okay, so pay attention. There are other types of passive verbs too, but that many also some passive verbs has a function of really passive verb, but just intransitive verb. Okay, and then knowing the passive verbs are not all. You should know how to use those passive verbs in a sentence. To make a sentence, how to use those passive verbs, that is also more important. You can watch that in the next video. 감사합니다.